Welcome to Virtual Assistants, the Agency Growth Machine podcast. Take your digital marketing agency to the next level as we share secrets, strategies, and client success stories. Step back from the day-to-day of your agency and activate massive growth using virtual assistants. And now your host, Azar Siddiqui.
Rob, welcome to our show today. It's a pleasure, sir, to have you. We have had a few conversations in the past, and I know you are one of our clients as well. And we are also in the process of using and setting up one of your products, PPC Ad Labs. We'll get to that part as well. Some amazing things I've heard in the past, a lot of digital marketing agency experience. I'd like to get into a little bit more about who Rob Warner is today. He's coming to us live from UK today from his home. I'm here in Calgary, and without any further ado, welcome to the show, Rob Warner.
Azar, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, sir.
You're welcome, Rob. Rob, so without wasting any time, I'd like to find out. By the way, I love your the British accent. It's becoming a novelty in the English speaking world. So looks like that you started out a company back in 2012 called Invisible PPC. Yeah. And looks like that company did really well. Tell us a little bit about I do want to get to that, but tell me a little bit about how what happened before that. How did you get into the digital marketing arena? What's the background story on Rob, where Rob's coming from?
So, happy to. So my background is by training, I'm an accountant. So I always wanted my own business, and I was told before I went into business when I was at school, if you want your own business, you need to know your numbers. Go and get an accountant's training, then you'll always have a good understanding of the numbers. Makes perfect sense. So I went out, got hired by one of the big four accounting firms, got a job, got qualified. And then a thing happens that once you qualify, they start paying you really well. And you start getting good jobs that are really nice and come with cars and bonuses and careers. And so I got to my sort of early 30s, and it was one of those like, hang on a minute. The thing that was supposed to be the means to the end has become the end. I didn't mean to still be here doing this. So decided, right, I'm going to do what I actually wanted to do, which was set up a tech company. Always been into tech. All my accounting work, I was building tech the whole way through. So started a software company, and it started to do okay. We started bringing in some corporate clients. And then you remember the banking crash around 2009, 2010? When the property markets collapsed, the banks collapsed. All our clients went with them. So our tech company that had just found its feet essentially crashed. So we thought, right, what the hell do we do now? We pivoted and decided to sell to government. Because governments are still spending money. It's like, great. The businesses haven't got money, but governments have. Let's do a version of our product for government sites to those guys. And we did. And we started selling to like local authorities. So local cities, local counties would buy our product. And then we had the election in 2012, it was. And this new phrase came out. It's called austerity, which basically was a shorthand for government stopping spending money on anything. And in the course of a week's vacation, 1 month after the election, my entire order book of government business was cancelled. And not only was it cancelled, they put a spending freeze on, which then meant I couldn't sell it to anybody else in government either. It was like, now what do I do?
So is this a UK market you're selling into
UK
at this
market.
point?
UK
and what's
market.
the product? What's the product, Rob?
It was a text messaging product. It was nothing. It was text messaging for notifications for schools, for colleges, for.
But back then, I would imagine, the iPhones have come out for 3 years only at this point, and some of these things, mass text messaging.
At the time, the dominance when we first built it, we built a piece of app. We built an app, and it was for the Nokia 75, I think it was. It was The Nokia operating system, it's called Symbian, was the operating system to develop for. That ruled the market. So we built our apps for Nokia Symbian phones because they were the smartphones of the day. But then, having realized now I've got no customers, I've got no money, and when I say no money, I mean I was 6 weeks from losing my house, no money. That's how no money it was. I was thousands and thousands in personal debt funding this company. And as the last roll of the dice, we decided to run some Google ads. And much to my surprise, we got a few customers. And then through a chance meeting, somebody said, I've seen your Google ads that you're doing. Can you do those for other people? And I'm like, well, I am in thousands and thousands and thousands of debt and can barely pay my bills. If you will pay me to run your Google ads, I will run your Google ads and I'll do my best. And one client became 2, became 3, became 4. And purely by accident. And around about somewhere between the 4th and the 5th client, I got approached by an agency, a UK web agency, doing about $1 million at the time. They said, look, we've got a ton of clients for SEO, a ton of clients for website builds. We know nothing about PPC and we don't want to. How about we'll do all the selling and you do all the fulfillment and we'll split the money. Now, I'm an introverted accountant. I don't like selling. Selling's not my thing. And I'm like, hang on, you do selling, I do technical nerdy stuff, and we split it. It's like my dream deal. So we did it and it worked. And
so at this point, where were you at with your agency journey?
That was literally my client number 5.
Okay.
My agency journey was this guy working at the middle of the night while trying to keep his software company alive, doing Google ads for a handful of clients.
And that was just meant to be like a side hustle for you so that you can keep the lights on.
Literally to keep the lights on and keep the roof over our head. And I recognized that I was terrible at selling. I didn't like it. So I started joining buying marketing products, joining marketing Facebook groups, and tried to be helpful about Google in it. And a weird thing happened. Whenever I made a helpful comment in a Facebook group about Google ads, a bunch of people would go, hey, I've got an agency. Can you do this for me? I go, of course I can. Of course I can. Yeah, I'd love to help. And it was kind of like a no selling. I'd just be helpful. People would come and ask me to do work for them. And they were predominantly in America. And by pure accident, I ended up with what essentially was a white label agency working mainly for US-based clients out of the UK. And it was honestly that stupid how it got started.
That's
amazing.
There was
no plan, it was an accident.
That's such an amazing story. And a lot of times our hero's journey is very different than what Rob just described, but Rob was going through a crunch, and that that you just mentioned, literally 6 weeks away from losing the home. And we've all been there, and we've all seen those. Like, I literally had days where on the particular day of the month, the first of the month, I had to go in and charge some of my clients' credit cards, and if only one of those credit cards didn't go through that day for whatever reason, sometimes it happens, right? I wouldn't have been able to pay the rent. And that's a stressful situation to be in, Rob. And that makes us unique as entrepreneurs. And with Rob's story, it's so evident that, Rob figured out a way of making it happen, keep the lights on, and then stumbled across something which turned into something amazing and something really fast. And because there was a demand for that, and you kind of stumbled into becoming a white label agency, Rob. So this is around 2012. And you call the company
Invisible PPC.
Nice.
And here's the thing: for 5 years, and so I was really good with data, which is what I was good at Google Ads: data, structure, organization, measurement. I could do that all day long. So it was a natural fit for me, which is why I didn't do SEO, because it was kind of like you build some stuff and you hope you get some links, and it was all a bit woo-woo. It didn't feel real. Whereas Google Ads did. And for the first, I think, about 4 or 5 years of that business, we didn't even have a website. Our website, if you went to it during that time, and here's the reason why: A, I couldn't afford to pay somebody to do it, and B, I couldn't do it myself. So I managed to get a page up on a WordPress website. And in the middle of the screen, all it said was nothing to see here. And there was a click to a form button so somebody could get into it. And that's all I had.
Amazing.
People would say, how are you credible? You haven't even got a website. We're white label. We're supposed to be invisible. They go, oh,
credibility is your work, isn't it? Like the words getting around so much so that you don't even need a website for the first 5 years.
The thing. It got to the point in these Facebook groups where somebody would ask a Google Ads question, somebody, and then immediately a bunch of people would be in there going, tagging Rob Warner, and I'd wake up to a bunch of messages of people asking me to become them a client. I'm like, great,
nice, good problem to have.
I'm not even doing anything now. I don't even have to post anything helpful. People are selling me,
and people listening to us. I think, this, I would really want to relate this because it happens. I've been running my agency for the last 14 years, Rob, in Calgary, Canada. And a lot of those years have been very, very tough. And, sometimes what happens is that, you're just around the corner to something that's massively going to be big and that's going to defy all odds. And during my agency days, if somebody told me that I would have to have a waiting list of a client, a waiting client list where we have literally a waiting list where people can have to wait on to get a particular type of person from RepStack at this point, and I would have just laughed at their face because I just wasn't used to it because I was barely keeping the lights on, right? And learning from you, a very similar thing that you went through where going through your journey as an accountant, and then you come into becoming working with this software company, making sure that it's working and you still got your all bets on that, and then all of a sudden you try doing something that's comes naturally to you, but it comes so naturally that you let your work speak for itself and you turn it into Invisible Pay-Per-Click. I'm excited to find more about Invisible Pay-Per-Click now, Rob. Like what happened, walk us through that journey and how you scaled that.
Yeah, that journey got interesting. So I very quickly found that I was having to hire, first of all, just somebody to help me do the Google ads. I hired a contractor. Then I hired a part-time project manager, and I then turned them full-time. And when I say hired, I mean, bear in mind, this is 2012, 2013 time. Zoom is not a thing. Slack is not a thing.
Yeah.
My business was built on Skype and email at the time. That were my only two options, Skype and email.
Nice.
And I was hiring people in the US, mainly to cover the fact that I'd now got clients in New Zealand, Australia, USA, UK, and all over. And I was killing myself doing customer phone calls going, I've got to talk to somebody in the Pacific. They want to call at midnight my time.
Yeah.
And then New Zealand want me at 5 a.m. the following morning. It's like, I really need somebody. And I hired primarily to cover the West Coast of the US for me, just so I could go to bed.
Wow.
And then it grew and it grew. And when I say I hired people, I mean, here was my sales pitch. I would like you to come and work for me. I can give you no benefits. I can't put you on a company payroll. I don't even have a company in the US or a bank account. But each month I'm going to send you your payment by PayPal. Does that sound like a great deal?
and where were you finding these people?
Job boards. So my first thing was I found my first person from a job board, and then I used them to say, who do you know? And so I hired one person, then hired a friend of them, and then a friend of them, and because they're all got digital marketing backgrounds.
And these people were all remote, Rob, or were they looking
100% remote? We were 100% remote from day one.
Excellent.
And so end of 2013, I went over to the US to an event to meet my customers. I just about could afford the airfare by then. And at that event, I got called out by name on the very first morning as an example of a specialist agency that was doing well. I spent 3 days just swamped with new business. To put it into context, when we grew Invisible to its peak, we would onboard up to 70 customers in a month.
Nice.
Now, most digital agencies don't onboard 70 clients in their lifetime, and we were doing that in a month. across all Google ads, but across multiple niches. So we had to scale pretty quickly. And that ended up with us being...
So this was the conference that you attended, and this gave you this snowball effect?
Yeah, this huge leg up. It was the best thing ever.
Were you speaking at this conference, Rob?
No, I was purely an attendee. I knew the event organizer by then because I've helped him out with some stuff in one of his Facebook groups. I've helped. I didn't know he was the organizer. I didn't even know he was a group admin. I just helped him, and it turned out he was both of those things. So when he gave me a shout out on day one, the rest kind of took off from there.
Oh, wow.
So we grew from there. We started building software. We grew services. We grew training elements in our business. And eventually ended up, and if you know, in Google, they have partner levels with their agencies. They have what's called a Google partner, you know, a little blue badge that says you've got some exams and you've got some spend going through your account. Then about 5% worldwide get this premier partner badge, which is like a red badge. And that says you're in the top 5%, which is great, or 3%, whatever the number is these days. We got invited to something called their channel sales team, which is like the top small percentage of their premier partners. Which means we got to deal directly with Google head office. We got to speak to the people running Google ads worldwide. And all from this tiny little remote business that was a little bit, you know, we were making it up. But yet there we were, sat in Mountain View, California with, you know, director level people in Google going, yeah, let's do some work together. Google saying we want to support you. How can we help? And I'm going, give us money. That'd be great.
That's amazing. So we'll stick to Invisible pay-per-click just for a little bit more, because you know, so it's a nice, amazing journey actually. So one of the things that you guys probably don't need is a marketing budget. Am I correct? Or did you guys start spending any money on marketing eventually?
No, well, here's what we did, which was I didn't realize at the time how smart it was. You know, often a lot of things look smart in hindsight. This turned out that very much that way. So we were approached by somebody who's now a friend to build a training course and a software for Google Ads, which we did, and they helped us promote and sell it. So what we would do is we would run a webinar with a partner to their audience, teaching our way of selling Google Ads with our training and with our tool, and they would buy the product. We'd pay an affiliate commission out, and then they would become a customer. And when they got the client, they then use us for fulfillment. So marketing for us was a revenue line, not an expense, because we were effectively charging people to train them how to become good customers. Which was brilliant.
That's a beautiful way of doing it, because you're going to be doing that anyways, running your own webinars and your podcasts and stuff like that. You partner with the right strategic people with their audiences, help them build out these amazing courses and trainings that they can give out to their people. But you know, you offer that service, I'm assuming, for free to these coaches and other people.
And then we were charging for the training.
Oh, wow.
Everybody who was buying our training was paying us anything from $600 upwards.
Well, what a value bomb here, folks. Like, you know, instead of spending money on marketing, Rob is actually it's a revenue stream, right?
Marketing for us was a revenue line.
Mind blown right there, Rob. Good job.
Yeah, and it meant for us, we could often, and here was the thing that we found, and this is, I'm about to say something and I mean it not to be offensive, although it may sound that way. One of the things we found was that many marketing agencies don't know how to do marketing for themselves. They're great with doing client stuff, whether it's a Facebook ads campaign or SEO, but when it comes to their own marketing, referral is the go-to. It's feast, famine, referral, and they don't have organized marketing approaches. And there are exceptions, but you know, out of every 100, I would say 90 of them would not have a solid client acquisition system. I think the training we provided gave that, which is what they needed.
That's amazing. It's so amazing that you bring this point up, because that's, you know, when we're working with agency owners and things like that, that's our biggest struggle to making them identify that, hey, you got to invest on your own marketing, whatever that may look like. In your case, it looks very different. It's an amazing, I think we can do an entire webinar on that strategy that you just discussed. And Jeff Fisher would love to talk to you on that as well, because he's been doing a lot of that and hybrid stuff on that side as well. But the point over here is that doing some of these things and identifying that you need a marketing department. We're doing this amazing job fulfilling for all these people, but we're not doing it for ourselves. We're not eating our own dog food. We're nearly done, Rob, writing my first marketing book from RepStack side, and we're kind of discussing titles, and one of the titles that I'm enjoying is that how dare you call yourself an agency owner? Because if we're not doing the same marketing things that we're doing for our clients, and we don't have a solid client retention department with these account managers who are, instead of, I'm assuming that at one point, since you guys have had all these clients now, you kind of step back from managing accounts as well, Rob. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah, I ended up stepping back, and we had a team of over 30 people. So it grew to a point where I wasn't managing accounts, which is a weird transition to make. But for us, it came down to two things. One, we found a method of getting clients at a profit, which was fantastic. And even to the point of those who didn't buy our training still had now a lot of awareness who we were. So even if 1,000 people bought our training, probably 3,000-4,000 had seen our webinars, had seen emails, were in our ecosystem, and that gave us huge kind of leverage to grow and scale. But it also gave us authority positioning, and I think that's one of the things that when you talk about a book, anything that you can do that gives you a market position that's hard for others to repeat. It's fantastic. Coaches still to this day often look to Invisible PPC for their fulfillment, because as an agency coach, such as Josh Nelson or John Logue or anybody else, the one thing that matters to them above everything is that they have a safe pair of hands for fulfillment. They need to know that if they teach their agency owners how to go out and get clients, and some of them do a fantastic job at that, the last thing you want to happen is it all to fail because the agency couldn't fulfill. And so a safe pair of scalable hands is really valuable.
Yeah, they need to be able to trust you before they'll put their name on the line and recommend you, and long behold, something really bad happens. And
and it comes down to that thing when you could go to a freelancer, and our argument was always we were more expensive than a freelancer would be. But if you said to us, I need to take on 10 clients tomorrow, we could always say, of course we can. There's a pretty good chance a freelancer couldn't do that. If a freelancer takes a vacation, your work stops. If they go sick, your work stops. And so there's this trade-off, and we were never as cheap as a freelancer, but we provided that consistency of service, that scalability that is really, really important to agency owners.
So there must have been a lot of work that went on from 2012 to 2020. But let's jump to, because I want to get to pay-per-click ad labs as well. That's a product that we're just setting up right now. We're so excited about that. But before we do that, can you tell me, Rob, like what did you grew the Invisible pay-per-click business to, and how did you exit that business?
So we grew it to multi-seven figures.
Nice.
Which was nice. And ultimately what happened was, as I said right at the start, I was an accidental agency owner. I'm naturally an introvert. And suddenly I've got a team of 35 people that need managing.
Nice.
And clients and people. And that for me was an awful lot of people to handle on a daily basis. And I found it exhausting. And having done it for 9 years, I got this thing in my ear going, need to build software, need to build software, need to build software. I really want to get back into doing the thing that got it all started in the first place.
Yeah.
And so 2020, 21 came, COVID was here, the world was weird. And I started building software again. Initially as side things to solve problems that I had internally, not to make a SaaS business or anything like that, just to solve internal problems. And then came to the conclusion that actually, trying to grow SaaS, which we're just trying to grow SaaS and trying to grow agency, they're two very different things. They're very different needs. I mean, it's like trying to ride two horses. It's not easy. And that kind of, I felt my time as an agency owner was done. I knew I was neglecting it, and that's not fair on anybody. You know, if you know you're not investing and neglecting in your and you're neglecting your business, you're not giving it your emotion, you're not giving it your attention, you're not giving it your brain space. That's not fair on your customers. That's not fair on your team. They're relying on you to lead them, and if you're not personally engaged and invested, that's just, you shouldn't be there. And I reached that point mentally where it's like, I need to not be here now because I am not the best thing for this business anymore. So I started a search. We hired a broker to work with us with a specific brief of finding the right buyer at a fair price. It was never about getting the best price. We could have taken offers, you know, for people who wanted to throw the staff away, you know, just take the customers, take the list, you know, but, you know, take the operation apart. And I thought, that's not, I don't want to look any of my team members in the eye and go, right, I've got my check, you've lost your job, have a nice day.
Yeah.
I didn't want that conversation. So finding the highest price was never our issue. It was finding the right buyer at a fair price. And we found a really good company in Austin, Texas. And we closed the deal last November to sell Invisible.
Nice.
And now the new owner is exactly as he should be. He's enthused, he's engaged, building a great team. He's already got an existing business that he brought it into. And I'm delighted. I still consider myself their biggest champion. And I'm still very proud of what they're doing.
No, that's amazing.
Not me now.
Such a great story, because, you know, a lot of these companies that we build by chance or sometime with, you know, sheer grit, you know, they have our DNAs in them, right? These, like, you spend like almost a decade at that company, and you know, there must be so much, a big part of you that's you know, part of that company on how the processes and systems are working, and handing that over to somebody else is a big decision. And you know, for some people it comes easily. For others, like me, you know, like that was never an option. Like, you know, I just wanted to continue doing my agency. It's gonna work. And you know, right now it's in, you know, coupled up in a ball with some of my very good best friends here in Calgary who are clients of mine still, and they refuse to, you know, without any attention, like you said, you know, most of the clients, you know, they kind of went away as I started focusing on RepStack. But I still have a core group of clients who are also, you know, friends and things like that. And I've been working with them for the last 10 years. And, you know, I have those setups ready to go for them, and it's working. And, you know,
it's amazing. I have clients on the Invisible PPC books who joined Invisible at that event in 2013.
Nice.
They were still there when I left.
Nice.
And that feels good.
It does, yeah.
In agency years, that's like 100 years.
Yeah.
So I was really proud of that fact that there were some of those original people were still there, even right at the end, and that was, for me, really satisfying. And the only thing that I kind of have regret's the wrong word, but a sort of frustration with is, as a white label agency, you're kind of a dirty little secret. Because no agency owner ever wants to go to their clients and go, oh no, you can't meet the guy who's doing your actual campaign. That's another company I outsource to. And because the first thing the client says, well, why am I paying you then? Why don't I just go direct to them? So agency owners on the whole can't admit to white labeling or outsourcing. So similarly, they don't want to, you know, you don't want to publicly give a testimonial, because you don't want to be the face on the website of the company that, as far as your clients are concerned, doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So it's a really weird thing that it would be really nice. And one of the reasons we're enjoying what we're currently doing is actually be able to put a name up and go, we're building this, we're really proud of it, and hopefully you are too.
Nice. So yeah, so let's walk into pay-per-click ad labs and talk about that a little bit. So you've always wanted to create software, and now running an agency for a 10-year stint, I think you have a better understanding of building software than any time before this. So how did the pay-per-click ad lab idea came about, and how's it doing right now? What's going on? Are you excited for the future?
Oh, honestly, so pay-per-click ad lab was another happy accident. So here's the thing. At Invisible, we brought out a product. It was a masterclass specifically for the plumbing industry, where we showed agency owners how to get plumbing clients. And one of the deliverables we promised in that product was 1,000 plumbers, 1,000 plumber leads to give you a starting point if you didn't have a list. And particularly we were focusing on people who were advertising. And having made that promise to deliver it, we then realized actually finding a list of plumbers advertising on Google is really difficult to get.
Yeah.
None of the tools we tried, and I'm not going to name them, but you can probably know the sort of tools that are out there that claim to find all the people advertising. They just don't. They don't, very little. So as an act of desperation, I hired a contractor and said, here's a process I think might work. Can you get me a CSV? And he did. And I went, that's fantastic. Can you get me another one? And I went back for another one. And about 3 or 4 iterations in, he went, Rob, would it be okay if I just built you a little user interface on this? Then rather than you asking me every time you want to get a new CSV, you can just get it yourself. I went, that would really help. So he got me this little user interface. That's really clever. I can put in a keyword, I can put in a location, and I get all the advertisers back. And so last May, Joe and I went out to have our quarterly management meeting. Because of COVID, I couldn't get into the US, he couldn't get into the UK. So we met in Dominican Republic, which is not the worst place to go for a management meeting.
I like that idea.
5 days working in a beach cabana, it sucked. And we're looking at all our priorities, and we laid them all out. And I went, but I've got this little thing that I'm working on that I think's kind of got something in it. I'm not really sure, but I think it's a thing. Can I carry on with it, please, just as a spare time project? And so I did, and I built PPC Ad Lab, and now PPC Ad Lab does a few things, but primarily you can give it any location, any search terms you're interested in, and it will find you in real time all the people who are advertising. It will find the advertiser, it will find their ad copy, their ad schedules. It will tell you what devices they're bidding on. It will tell you what their contact information is. It will even send them personalized emails and that kind of thing. So it really is kind of the agency owner's prospecting tool of choice now, because one of the things we know is that some of the highest value prospects out there are those already advertising, and by far the highest advertising spends tend to be Google. So if you're after new clients, that just about any service, if you know they're spending money on Google ads, they're probably willing to spend money on other things. And it's given us a brilliant lead resource.
Yeah, no, that's so what I got from this is that you also was this intentional, Rob, that you guys decided to sell to the same market that you were before?
So I think the thing is, as you rightly said, we've been in this space 9 years, and I think at Invisible we had a really unique perspective. And what I mean by that is most agency owners see their agency. They might work with a coach who sees several agencies, but we actually worked directly inside well over 1,000 agencies. So we got to see the problems that these agencies had. And it wasn't just like a once a quarter get together or a once a month Zoom call. We would be speaking to most of them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. We really knew what agencies had issues with. And I mentioned before about the sales issue. So what Joe and I, my business partner, set out to do is said, let's build solutions for problems that the market hasn't solved. Let's not build, if it already exists, let's not build it. But if it doesn't exist and it hasn't been solved at scale, let's build the solution for it. And Ad Lab's really the first example of that, where it's a tool that, quite honestly, should, in my opinion, should have existed years ago. The tools that claim to do it don't do it very well.
Yeah.
We measurably find 10 times more data than they find. So we know we do a better job. And so we become very intentional. We launched it with a really, really basic, embarrassingly basic version last summer. And it's done great. It's already has a substantial valuation, and we're excited about it.
Nice. That's so exciting. And so this worked out really, really well, because for a digital marketing agency, it's so important. Like, we're doing all these cutting edge things, right, for our clients, and you're launching these amazing campaigns, and everything is really, really dependent on a solid quality lead list. And that is still in 1999, I think, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Because you're hiring data scrapers still on Fiverr and Upwork, and you're getting people to kind of, go through Google and build these lists out for you. Imagine, how many things can go wrong there, and they do. And but the version that you guys can, I can't imagine a digital marketing agency operating without a tool like pay-per-click Ad Labs, because it gives you immediately at your fingerprints any market that you or your clients are going to be entering in. You can pull up a list, and you can start working on that highly qualified list.
Here's the thing with that as well. What it allows our agencies to do now is to go to a market. So imagine this scenario. On a Monday morning, you go, find me all the plumbers in Tampa. Go. And you leave it running. It runs in real time, so it will find them over the course of several days. And it says, and then when you've done 20 checks on Google, for example, start looking at the contact information and email them personalized emails going, Dear Mr. Plumber, you are ranked number 5 plumber in Tampa, Florida. Do you want to know who's beating you? We've just produced a market report. And by the way, would you like to see the most popular ad copy in your market? We're showing them data they've never seen before. So rather than it being a kind of generic cold blast, we're leading with value, we're leading with insight, and people are generally blown away. It's
got a CRM aspect to it as well.
Yeah. So
are you planning? Is there a plan to kind of build the CRM system out, or are you guys going to be giving integrations into other CRMs?
So we're building integrations currently. We're building integrations into things like High Level and those kind of places. So yes, we have an email auto outreach system, but people might not want to use ours. They might want to use their own. It's not really.
I can tell.
Sophisticated, but it's getting better and.
I think an integration with a tool like High Level, because High Level is primarily a digital marketing agency tool, would be great. My brother Athar is actually at a High Level Mastermind in Dallas right now.
Oh, it's right now, aren't they?
And he's having a great time. And what you said earlier, some of these events that you did, and how you co-branded your trainings and stuff like that, a lot of people already knew who you guys were and gave you authority. And Athar is having a similar experience in Dallas right now, even though we're not speaking, we're just attending the mastermind. But our marketing department and things we've done with Josh and other people have kind of accumulated that a lot of people in that room already know who Athar and RepStack is, and we're having a good time there. So these strategies do work.
It's the nicest way to market and to grow relationships. If you're leading with value, and you're building a reputation within communities, it's a wonderful thing. I love going to events where I just get to hang out and speak to people like that, because it's just such a nice opportunity.
We discussed a bit of marketing. You have some amazing ideas about marketing, and we also discussed how you were retaining clients using account managers in your previous companies. But we haven't really talked about sales, Rob. What's your philosophy behind sales? Do you guys have a sales department set up right now? What's going on in there?
So if we talk about our software business as it stands right now, the closest thing we have to sales is somebody I would describe as our customer ascension manager. And his role essentially is to make sure that when somebody comes into Ad Lab for a trial, he catches them during that trial period. Make sure, because it's a new tool, so sometimes the user interface can confuse people. Sometimes they don't know how to get what they want. So his job is to make sure the user gets what they want during the trial, gets a ton of value for it, and hopefully becomes a paying customer. And then his job is to make sure they get success with the tool. So if they start with a small plan, they ultimately buy a bigger plan, because that's how we win, but it's also how we win. Our success is kind of tied to our customer success, which is exactly the way it should be. If they're getting value out of the tool, if they're using it well to bring on people, then they can buy a bigger plan from us. They get more customers, we get more revenue. And that's what we do. So it's kind of like we sell to people who are already in our ecosystem. We still run webinars. We still run partner webinars. And we find that for us is a really nice way of doing it, because we get to spend an hour with somebody. We get to educate, we get to teach, we get to train, and we get to make an offer at the end of that webinar. But it's an offer where nobody can give us any money. All we're saying is, here's the thing that can get you customers. Go and take a free trial, and very worst, you'll get several hundred prospects' names that you can use in the future. So it's a really nice thing to be able to sell. It's kind of, Joe always says I do invisible selling. It's selling without selling, because there's no need to actually pitch anybody. The software sells itself when people are in.
Yeah, and then in a time where a company like yours, you do need to make phone calls, 100, 120 phone calls. Is there a plan for that? Go ahead.
Yeah, there is. We just started it now, and we've started it with a RepStack rep, which is fantastic. We're excited about it. So we're going out to the outside world, and as you said, we're eating our own dog food. We're running Ad Lab jobs, finding prospects, and our RepStack rep is calling them to make sure we've got the right contact information and say, hey, we're running 500 tests on the Google advertisers in Google, the Plumber's advertising on Google in Tampa. Would you like a copy of the report? And is booking a sales appointment. And in fact, the very first one came in yesterday, and I think we've got it rated as a 4 out of 5 to convert.
Nice.
So
awesome. That's I want to interject over here, because this is obviously near and dear to my heart as well. What recently we started doing, or about 3-4 months back, is that we really wanted to, buckle down on the type of clients that we're working with. And one of the things that we stopped doing was that, there's always, like, when as agency owners, when we think about growing our businesses, the first thing that comes to my mind is that I need to hire a salesperson. I need to get this person on phone calls and get him to start dialing. But that could not. I tried that in my agency career for 14 years. I can promise you it never worked out. And the only time it works out is when you're sitting on a gold mine of a list, like pay-per-click Ad Labs is going to spit out. And just imagine, these are already pre-qualified. Like, this just gets me excited, because these are not the type of people Rob and I are talking about. These are not people who are just career cold callers, and they're just sitting like robots in a dungeon somewhere and doing these calls for you. These people are actually these people have a potential of become career executives. That's the type of person that we want to bring to the table to a company like Rob's. And these are intelligent people, starting out, just even today, I believe if you want to start out at Goldman Sachs, you get an unpaid job, commissions only. You start out on the floors and you start selling stock like everybody else, and then you move your way up, right? And it ends up becoming a partner, whatever level that may be. So when a smart person, the right person, comes in as a sales development rep, or what Rob is trying to do is, and they come on, they have this gold mine of data in front of them. Now it's up to them to go through that 120, 150 calls a day, make sure they're hitting their targets, booking 1 to 2 discovery calls a day, and maybe even more depending on the type of data that is spitting out. So now I think you guys are doing a great job, especially because of the pay-per-click Ad Lab. I'm just interested.
Really good tag team. It's a really good tag team.
It just works.
We're delighted to do it with you guys because, and I say this because it's true, not because you're the person on the other end of the call. We have awesome data and awesome abilities to collect data, which is highly valuable and makes prospecting an easier activity to do. Prospecting is always hard work, but it's a hell of a lot easier if you've got valuable data to give away. But leading with a give, not an ask, it's a lot easier. But then we're taking that data and we're pairing it with a really smart, articulate rep who can lead with value, lead with a good impression of our business, engage a prospect, think on their feet, and book a call. And those two things together, it's a really powerful combination that we're in the early days of testing it. But hey, at the moment, as of calls of today, we are 1 from 1, and I'll take that all day long.
That's awesome. I love it, Rob. Rob, it's been a pleasure. I think I would love to have some kind of joint venture on a webinar where we can kind of host it and have you guys come in and maybe walk us through on the basics of incredible list building, because that's every single one of our clients. I can promise you, we all can use a better quality list. And what better way of doing it than with pay-per-click ad labs? I'd love to have something scheduled in the future and get that out to our audiences, and I think it'll be incredible.
But it's been an argument from me against doing that.
It's been a pleasure, my friend. I think we'll continue these conversations from time to time. It's been incredible learning about your journey, a very unique journey, and a lot of times I could relate to you. And a lot of times, there are exciting things that you mentioned that, like when things get going, they really get going, right? When you least expect them.
You know what? It's one of those things. It would be really easy to come on a call like this and tell a wonderful narrative story, how we did this, we did that, and we did that, and it all grew. And it was, what a brilliant plan that was. Aren't I clever? But 9 times out of 10, that's not the truth. We make the best choices we have with the information we have at the time, and we back ourselves to make our next best bet. Yeah. Sometimes we're right, oftentimes we're not, and that gets us to where we're supposed to be. And that's my belief on it. That the stories are very, very rarely as clean and as neat and as tidy as people would have you believe. Yeah. No, so true. Rob Warner, thanks for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, sir. We'll have this posted real soon and we'll keep you updated.
This has been The Virtual Assistant, the Agency Growth Machine podcast by Azar Siddiqui, co-founder at RepStack. If you liked today's episode, you can find more and subscribe at repstack.co. Thank you for listening.